Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are taking a really tactical look at one of the most unpredictable variables in any city, the taxi.
It's a great topic.
And this deep dive is really for you, whether you're sitting behind the wheel near one or, sitting comfortably in one.
And that's a fantastic duality to explore. Our sources today, they look at this from two completely opposite angles.
Right.
First, there's the external chaos, the defensive driving you need to do to avoid an accident. And then there's the internal control, the safety, the logistics, what you as a smart passenger need to know.
Exactly. The mission is just to minimize surprises. I mean, the source material points out that the whole taxi environment, it demands these constant unannounced maneuvers.
That phrase they use really stuck with me,
Which one?
that they can go from harmless to hazardous in the blink of an eye.
Yes. And we need to get into the pressures that are actually driving that behavior.
That's the key context for this whole conversation. We're going to move from, let's say, external observation, how to see and react to those sudden stops, to internal strategy.
How to verify your ride, figure out your fare, navigate all the social stuff.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's start on the road then. Our sources, they label taxis as among the most unpredictable vehicles on the road.
Especially in, dense urban areas where your reaction time is basically zero.
So we need more than just be careful. We need specific things to look for.
Well, what's fascinating here is getting into the why behind that chaos.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily, malice. It's the business model.
The need to find a fare.
Right? They have to chase the fare, which means they are constantly scanning the sidewalk for the next customer.
So what are the specific behaviors we should look for when we're driving near a cab? Because just watching for brake lights is often way too late.
Way too late. You have to look beyond the taillights, focus on the driver's head movement and the car's speed.
Okay, explain that.
If you see the taxi speed just drop a little and the driver is actively scanning the curb, you can literally see them tilting their head to the right. That is your signal.
That's the tell.
That is your immediate nonverbal cue that they've spotted someone. A sudden unsignaled stop is probably coming.
That is such an actionable insight because that head tilt means the fare just became more important than the flow of traffic.
That's exactly.
So the first defensive strategy has to be safe, following distance. But I mean, how do you do that in bumper-to-bumper traffic?
You can't always.
Yeah.
But you have to try. The standard 3-second rule,
Mm-hmm.
you probably need to stretch that to 4 seconds, maybe even more if you're behind a cab in the city.
And if you can't get the distance.
Then you have to cut your speed way down. And just assume that the lane next to the taxi, the curb lane, could be blocked at any second.
And then we have to factor in the more serious risks. Our sources mention reckless driving from time pressure and driver fatigue.
The time pressure is huge. I mean, think about it. If your passenger says they're late for a flight, that driver is now incentivized to be aggressive, to take chances.
And the fatigue.
That's a huge safety hazard. Drivers working these incredibly long hours,
Yeah.
you just have to assume their reaction times are compromised, especially late at night.
And then there's the distraction issue, which cuts both ways.
What do you mean?
Well, the driver could be distracted by a GPS or their phone, but the passenger can also trigger a risk.
Oh, absolutely. The classic scenario, right? The passenger yells, "Oh, I missed the turn, stop here."
Right, in the middle of the lane.
And that forces the driver into an immediate, totally erratic maneuver. So as a surrounding driver, you need to be scanning the whole situation, even the people in the back seat.
So the big takeaway for drivers is treat a taxi less like a car and more like an instantly deployable hazard.
That's a good way to put it.
Maintain that extra distance, read the driver's eyes, and just expect that sudden move to the curb.
Precisely. Understanding their operational pressures is your best defense.
Okay, let's pivot. Let's get inside the cab. Now you're the passenger. We'll start with safety. How do you tell the difference between a safe, regulated ride and, well, an unsafe one?
Taxis are, generally safe.
Yeah.
But that safety really hinges on one thing: verification.
Meaning?
A licensed taxi has to follow strict local rules. This usually means mandatory vehicle inspections, sometimes every 6 months. It means higher commercial insurance coverage, and it means real background checks by a city authority.
And how is that different from, say, a rideshare vehicle?
The big difference is often in the oversight and the physical proof. A traditional licensed taxi has to display things. You should see a medallion or a unique plate number. A printed fare chart should be visible. And clear driver identification.
Then you have to check that ID.
You have to. Make sure the face on the ID matches the person who's driving.
Okay, let's talk about where to sit. I think this is something people don't think about. What do the sources say is the safest spot?
Overwhelmingly, the back seat.
Why is that?
It might feel a little less personal.
Yeah.
It gives you more space. And physically, it's just the safest spot to be in if there's a sudden stop or, a collision. It also lets you get out on either side of the car safely.
But doesn't sitting in the back make it harder to, watch the route or tell the driver where to turn? It feels like a trade-off.
It's a bit of a balance, sure. But the sources suggest using your own tech to close that gap. You should have the route pulled up on your own phone.
That makes sense.
And it's not just a watch for detours. It's so you can quickly share your trip details with someone. Just you sitting there, silently monitoring the route, sends a message that you're alert.
Okay, logistics. Let's talk availability. The roof light is the classic sign, but are there better strategies for finding a cab?
Yeah, forget just looking for the light. It's about knowing the flow of the city. Your best bet is always a designated taxi stand.
So, airports, train stations, big hotel.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially during rush hour. And if you're hailing on the street, you have to remember the golden rule. Be on the side of the road that's already going in your direction.
So you don't pay for them to circle the block.
You got it.
And what if it's like a holiday or there's a huge event when you can't find anything?
Pre-book. Always pre-book. Use the schedule feature in a rideshare app or the taxi company's app. Our sources say book at least an hour ahead during those busy times. Scheduled rides almost always get priority.
All right, so you're in the cab, the meter starts. Let's talk about cost. This seems more complex than just paying for distance.
Oh, it is. And understanding this brings us right back to our first point, because the fare structure is what drives the behavior.
Right.
You're paying for three distinct things, plus surcharges. The first is the base fare, the flag drop rate. That's the flat fee you pay the second the trip starts.
Okay, and the other two are distance and time. But how do those work together?
This is where it gets really interesting. The meter is actually running two clocks at the same time. One for distance, like dollars per mile, and one for time dollars per minute. The key is something called the speed threshold.
The speed threshold, what's that?
Yeah. In most big cities, the meter is programmed to only charge you for whichever of those two is moving faster.
Ah.
So if you're moving quickly, say over 12 miles an hour, you're paying the distance rate. But the moment the car slows down below that speed stuck in traffic, at a red light, the meter automatically flips. Now it's charging you the time rate for sitting still.
That is the crucial insight. You are literally paying for waiting.
You are.
So that's why a driver might take a slightly longer route on a highway instead of through a congested downtown.
Exactly. They're trying to keep the car moving above that speed threshold to maximize the fare. They know that sitting in gridlock means the passenger's just watching that time charge tick, tick, tick up.
And then finally, surcharges. What are the common ones we should expect?
They vary everywhere, but you'll often see airport fees, tolls, of course, and late-night fees, usually after midnight. Some cities also use a zone rate system.
What's a zone rate?
It's where a trip between two specific places, like from downtown to the airport, is just a single flat rate. It bypasses the meter completely.
Yeah.
You should always ask if you're in a flat rate zone before you start.
That is incredibly helpful. Okay, let's shift to social logistics. Tipping. This feels like a minefield.
It can be. The customs are just wildly different around the world. You have to know what zone you're in.
Okay, so what's zone one?
Zone 1 is where tipping is expected. That's the United States, Canada, and much of the Middle East. You're generally looking at 15 to 20%.
And zone two, where it's more appreciated.
Right. That's most of Western Europe, the UK, Australia, New Zealand. Here, it's more common to just round up the fare or maybe add 5 or 10% for really great service, like if they help with heavy bags.
It's not seen as part of their wage.
Exactly. And then there's the big outlier we have to mention, Japan.
Where it's a no-go.
A definite no-go. Tipping in Japan can be seen as confusing, maybe even a little rude. The service is included in the price, and trying to give more can imply you think they aren't being paid enough.
That is such a vital distinction. Okay, let's troubleshoot some common problems. Pets. Can I bring my dog in a taxi?
You absolutely have to call the company first. It's almost always up to the individual driver, unless it's a certified service animal.
And if they say yes?
Well, small pets need to be in a secure carrier. And it's a really good idea to bring a blanket or a towel to put on the seat. That little bit of courtesy goes a long way.
But for actual service animals, the rules are different.
They are. Under most laws, service animals have to be allowed, regardless of the pet policy. But again, it's still polite to give a heads up when you book.
Okay, next problem. Sharing a taxi. This can get awkward fast. How do you make it work?
The foundation is just clear agreement before you start moving. You have to agree on the drop-off order and, crucially, how you're going to split the fare.
What's the fairest way to do that?
Either split it equally or, base it on the distance each person actually traveled, and then just basic etiquette applies. Keep the noise down, be considerate.
All right, now for the one everyone dreads. You realize the driver is taking a route that just feels wrong. Too long. How do you handle that?
The first step is to stay calm. Don't start with an accusation.
Just ask a question.
Right. Politely ask, are we avoiding some traffic up ahead? And while you're doing that, you should be pulling up your own GPS app to compare the routes.
And if you're right, if the route is clearly padded.
Then you state your observation clearly, and you try to negotiate a fair price based on what the trip should have cost. But, and this is critical, if the driver refuses, don't escalate it in the car.
What do you do?
You pay the fare, you get a receipt, and you immediately write down the driver's ID number and the taxi number. You need that documentation to file a formal complaint with the company or the city regulator.
Documentation is everything. Last one. The heartbreak of leaving something behind. What's the fastest way to get it back?
Speed is everything. The second you realize it's gone, you have to act. If you paid with a card and got a receipt, that receipt is your golden ticket. It has the taxi number and the company's phone number.
And if you used an app?
Even better. Use the app's Report Lost Item feature. That system can often connect you directly to the driver's phone, which is by far the most effective way to get your stuff back.
Is there like a psychological tip for this?
There is. Offer a small reward. The sources suggest that even just offering $20 can significantly motivate a driver to double-check their car and make the trip to return your item.
Wow. We have covered a huge amount of ground here, from road tactics to fare mechanics to safety. So the key takeaways for you, the listener, seem clear.
I think so.
Read the driver's head movement. Understand that the fare is this dynamic calculation of distance or time. And always, verify the license and sit in the back.
And tying it all together, back to where we started, right?
Yeah.
With the driver's high-pressure environment, the sources show they take chances because of those time and distance pressures.
Which brings up a final question.
It does. A pretty profound one. If a city's goal is public safety, but the fare structure itself incentivizes speed over waiting, how does that structure push drivers toward riskier behavior?
Right. How might changing the way we charge for a ride actually change the safety of the entire system?
Exactly. Something to think about the next time you're stuck in traffic behind a cab.
Until the next deep dive, drive safely and ride smarter.
Please like, subscribe, and get notified.